What's up, everyone? Welcome to Room and Board. My name is Chris George, and today is Monday morning. That's right, it's not Tuesday. I'm sorry for that cruel prank that I pulled on all of you last week. I fooled you all. That has to be one of the most uninspired pranks. I prank like Winston Bishop from New Girl. We go very big or infinitesimally small. I'll have to tell you about the time that I created a stalker for my ex-friend and now mortal enemy Josh that I kept going for about 2 years. But that's a story for another day. We certainly don't have time for that. We have a very big week this week. But first off, as always, shout out to my newest patrons, Ted, Greg, Kevin, Patrick, and Mr. and Mrs. Beeson. Thank you so much for jumping on board. Thank you for supporting the channel. You are all so fantastic. I really, truly appreciate it, and it really means a lot. Let's see how many other ways I can say that same sentiment over and over. But seriously, thank you. A little really does go a long way in helping to support my diamond and gold chain addiction. I mean, what can I say? If it's not embossed in 24 karat gold, well, I am not eating it. I'm accustomed to a certain lifestyle, and I'm not gonna apologize for it. And speaking of lies, just a quick PSA. One, make sure to drop a comment in the video I put out on Wednesday. It was the 1 year on YouTube, and so I'm having a giveaway. We're giving away Green Horde to one lucky commenter. And if you're here watching this, well then you should definitely submit yourself over there for that and get yourself potentially a cool game. And two, the winner will be announced next week on next Monday's Crowdfunding Countdown video, just to give everyone enough time to make sure they've seen it if they want to enter. But also, if you were contacted by someone named Text on Telegrams at Rab Reviews, that is not me. There is somebody masquerading as me attempting to scam people out of their money, and it makes me very angry. They were commenting on every post pretty much saying, you get a prize and you get a Green Horde. I could divvy it up, but I don't think anybody would want a single Green Horde mini, or if you're really unlucky, just like a door token. The plastic wrap from the outside. But yes, someone was getting people's hopes up, and worse than that, attempting to scam them out of money. So to you, you miserable piece of scumbag, they're not watching this. It was clearly a bot that just flagged the word giveaway. But if you are watching, I hope you get bit by a dog. Yeah, and you know what? I hope it's the sweetest little dog, too. Everybody's laughing. They're playing with this cute little puppy. You go up. You just want to get yourself a nice little dopamine hit that only cute and cuddly animals can produce. But animals know this sort of thing. They know the type of person that you are. They've all seen the ads that I've posted in all of their canine message boards, and they are all ready to strike. I pay in dentabones, baby! You ain't getting away from that. And I have hundreds. Anyway, I'm sorry for the scammer. I really am. People suck sometimes, but some people are great, and thank you to those people who did reach out and were like, hey, somebody's trying to be you, and they're probably not you. My favorite was someone who messaged me saying, hey, this person messaged me, and now they're telling me that I have to pay $140 in shipping, and considering about how much you gripe over and over about $20 in shipping, I feel like it's not you. And you are very right. My brand as a cheapskate was paying off with more dividends than I could possibly imagine. Anyway, that's enough of an intro and a preamble, but I needed to say that up front just in case somebody was still pursuing those sorts of avenues and hadn't realized it. It happens. Scammers, they suck you in. They prey on your hope, leave you with despair. Like a villain from Danganronpa. It was an okay anime. You don't have to go check it out. But we have a ton of games to get through this week, so unfortunately, or fortunately, probably fortunately, I can't cover everything that I normally like to cover, so I'm cutting some of them for time, some that are, you know, not that successful or don't look that good, not cross the threshold for their funding, like games like Anastyr, The Dark Quarter, Great Wall Reprint. Yeah, those piddly little ones, they won't be in there. But some obscure one about Daddy Devlin's Den of Delights sure will. Don't worry, I'm gonna cover those ones. They're the most popular and what most people will skip to. Really, the things that got cut are stuff like another really expensive gaming table, but this one looks like it's made out of metal siding, because that's what you want to rest your arms on for a 2+ hour game. Anyway, We haven't even started. This is going to be a long, long video. Thanks for being here. And let's get into our first game of the week, which is Don't Let It Die. And if you thought this looked like Get to the Checkpoint, well, you would be right, because it's by the same designer and design team. And in this one, you're going to play as a caveman or a member of the Wild Thornberries and try to survive 14 rounds while also discovering how to make fire. You've stumbled across fire. You're like, what is this madness? And you're going to try to learn more about the fire as the game progresses and try not to let your fire die. Because as we all know, in this game, fire represents your life, and when it's gone, so are you. It may have happened as a fluke when Granny Club stuck her prehistoric toaster into that malfunctioning prehistoric outlet, but we're here now and we gotta keep this magical flame going. Now they have 2 links to the rulebook on their main campaign page. And you know what? Don't let it die. I could kiss ya. It's fantastic. I'm making this my pick of the week already. You don't have to watch the rest of this 2-hour video. And it's great if you're gonna have a bad layout for your campaign page, make sure you follow in this lead and have 2 links to the rulebook so that you can actually click to it once you finish scrolling through all of the stuff. And this one actually seems pretty fun. What draws me in are the different tech trees that you get to explore to make fire. There are 2 different tech trees. There's one for normal and one for hard. I kind of wish there were a couple more tech trees, but you're going to choose your pathways and choose what upgrades your tribe gets while still trying to make your way along the correct pathway, which will lead you to nurturing that flame. But you're going to want to branch off and use your fire tokens to upgrade other things as well, which will help you survive. I guess that's what fire tokens have been used for in prehistoric times. Nowadays, I hear they're only used for exchanging to Jeff Probst for a jar of peanut butter or unlimited idols. So the game's broken down into a morning, a day, and a night phase. In the morning, you wake up, you take a wound just for existing, which, you know, is the most thematic game I think I've ever seen. Because anytime I wake up, I hurt. Oh, it just hurts. Everything hurts. And then through the day, everyone has a set number of stamina tokens, and every action you can do costs stamina. And so you can forage for food, which can presumably restore your health. The damage represents your hunger, basically. And you can gather stuff, or you can learn about the fire, study the flames, and look into the fire and roll a dice and see how many fire tokens you actually get. And then you can use those fire tokens to progress on the tech tree. And this is one element where I'm like, I don't know if I really like how random it is, how many fire tokens you get, especially when it seems to cost a lot of stamina. That's my first, like, I don't know. And then in the night, you're going to have these events, and these events are all kind of random. They can do good or bad things, and you have to adapt to them. It seems like a fun game, seems like a fun co-op, but I feel like there might just be a little smidge too much randomness for my personal tastes. Anyway, this one's 50 bucks Canadian or $40 US with $15 US shipping, and I can't really remember from all of my 17 pages of notes, but that feels like it is one of the better shipping prices this week. I guess we'll have to remember as we go through this video. And the reason it's good is because they say they're subsidizing it. Some of their profits, or they're just putting that in the actual cost of the game. This is why I like to look at the shipping and the game price as a total package, because that's the total package that you're going to pay, even if you are paying it in installments. As anyone who pledged for Marvel Zombies is certainly now figuring out. Anyway, if you are interested in this one, that finishes on Wednesday, May the 4th at 9 a.m. Now, next up, we don't have a game, and yet we still have a tangent, and I'm going to talk about it because we have this Dice Advent Calendar. And I guess what this means is apparently we have to start thinking about Christmas gifts now instead of on the 24th of December like a normal person. You go into your closet, you grab an old shirt, you wrap it in cheddar cheese with some cheese to mask the smell. You don't wrap it with cheese. That would be a disgusting gift. You put a nice cheese in there so they think, oh, you know, cheese and a shirt, beautiful. You can say you got it from a consignment store. You're good to go. Works every Christmas. My parents have yet to complain. Anyway, I did want to talk about this because I think this concept is cool. I think it does look cool, especially if you are into RPGs or you know somebody who's into RPGs. This might be a really cool gift for them. You'll get up to 4 sets of dice. You will get 4 sets of dice. Depending on which type of advent calendar you pick, you can get them in a different color scheme. That's basically it. You'll get 3 of one and 1 of the other. And you'll get to open it over the 24 days. it seems like a fun idea. I like advent calendars as this sort of idea. My mom got a wool advent calendar because she really likes knitting, so she really enjoyed that. My dad has gotten a Scotch advent calendar, which was also cool. So I just think that this is a really neat idea, and it's cool that it's coming out now because it will be hopefully to you at the 1st of December so that you can enjoy it. And if it isn't, well, they have really screwed up because you had one job, advent calendar. You had one job. This one is expensive. I guess I should have prefaced that more at the beginning before I got you all riled up about these cool looking dice. 75 bucks Canadian or $58 US. And then shipping is $17 US to Canada or $12 US to the US. And there's not really international. They say, go check out our website for international, aka it's too bad a deal to put on here. So it is very pricey. Dice can be cheap and cheerful to incredibly expensive so that only Slippery Jim can afford them. This is somewhere in between, but you know, for the holidays, if it's something that someone was really passionate about, this is kind of a cool idea, and so that's why I wanted to highlight it and talk about it. And if you are interested, that finishes Wednesday as well at 11 a.m. Now, next up, we have a game called Clash at Rook's Point. And this one is almost funding, and I'm breaking my vow of silence on it pretty much for one reason and one reason only. Well, because I don't want to break our streak, and it's been weeks going. And so, of course, I needed to bring up another two-player head-to-head card game because...
So it's just like Duel Monsters.
Yeah. Well, no, both players have the same 25-card deck. I like asymmetry, but I also like, in a two-player head-to-head thing, having the same deck so you can definitively say, yes, I am better than you, Marguerite. That's not true. I don't know why Marguerite came out of my mouth. Marguerite is a close friend of my parents, and so she's also one of my patrons. I am certainly not better than Marguerite. That I actually know for certain. But at least in this situation, you can say, yes, I am the greatest Yugi of all time. Anyway, the art is quite nice, and it's fairly cheap, which is why I don't mind talking about it. It's $15 US for this one little deck of cards, and then it's $5 to $10 shipping for most places. So it's relatively cheap. I mean, there are still cheaper games out there. A whole deathmatch tournament of them coming out soon. April was our affordable games deathmatch, and that recap will be coming out shortly. But anyway, feel free to check it out if you are interested in two-player head-to-head card games and you haven't had your fill over the last few weeks. That finishes Wednesday as well at 3:46 p.m. And I swear to God, Clash at Rook's Point, if you cancel your funding before this video comes out and after I've filmed it and I've taken up this valuable time, I am never talking about a Kickstarter that hasn't reached its funding ever again. This is on you. You have this in the palm of your hand. Now, next up we have a game called Gamestormers, and this is a premise that I was kind of excited about. And then looking into it, I was a bit disappointed by, because it bills itself as this tableau builder, this large scale, you're going to create a unique game, you're going to pitch a unique game, you're going to get cards that will give your game cool mechanics, and that could be fun to have a whole swath of cards out there. But what really this game is it's a storytelling game. You're going to play 5 cards and then you're going to pitch your game with its genre and items in it to everyone around the table, and then they're going to go, yeah, that's the best one, and you win. And there are ways to manipulate it and to count points for the things that you put down, but those ways feel a little bit uninteresting. The most interesting thing actually to do on your turn is you can go into the arena and you say, declare I'm going in the arena, and everyone else can go in the arena as well. And you draw 3 random cards, which give you sort of a story, and you have 1 minute to pitch a game like that. Again, I think this is the most fun aspect of it, but it's a storytelling game, and I really am not that interested in storytelling games, especially when this is billed as a tableau builder. I really don't think it is. So manage your expectations there. If this caught your eye and you were like, oh, I wonder what that is. I think I find storytelling games, honestly, they're just too much work. Or it's like the game is forcing me to make up narratives and stories, and I'd rather just play a different game and then make up narratives and stories in that game if I feel like it. And if I don't, then I'm not forced to present something at the end of the game like it's some sort of class book report. However, the best part about this campaign and why I'm thrilled it exists is the Kickstarter video, and at the end, when the designer has their little pitch, so you can see their face and connect with them emotionally. And so the designer's there, and he's holding his baby girl's newborn. I don't know what babies look like. Could be 7. Who knows? It's about 7, right? Anyway, her name's Sloane, and he says, and this is a direct quote, "When Sloane was born, she inspired me to create something to share with the world. And so came Gamestormers." Screw you, Sloane. So came Gamestormers. I wish he had said, "and so Gamestormers was born." That's the only way it could have been better. Where you can all create something to share with the world, to be proud of, like I am. With Gamestormers and only Gamestormers. Absolutely not Sloane, my beautiful daughter that I'm holding. I do not want to share her with the world whatsoever. I mean, props to Sloane, honestly. She's being very well behaved while her father directly slanders her to thousands of people. This is what you don't see when the cameras turn off. "You'll never be as good as Gamestormers, Sloane." Her whole life she's going to have to live up to her older brother, Gamestormers. "Stormy doesn't even need to be fed, Sloane. Stormy knows how to sleep on the shelf when it's nap time, Sloane." Oh, poor Sloane. I think you're going to do great things, Sloane. Greater things than Gamestormer ever can produce. So you got my support. Anyway, it's $35 US or $45 Canadian, 13 more for shipping to the US, 20 more for shipping to Canada. That's just way too much for what it is. But I do like that some of the cards you can use dry eraser markers on, and they're just cards that you can create, and I think that's important in a storytelling game, which this is. So if you're interested in that one, check it out. May 5th. 10 a.m. is when that finishes. And speaking of storytelling, we have our next game, The Dark Quarter, which is the latest Lucky Duck app-driven game with board game components. And if you're looking for Telltale, the board game, this is putting itself forward as it. And I see a lot of parallels with any of the sort of Telltale video games that exist out there. If you're unfamiliar, Telltale, they're sort of narrative video games. You walk through and you choose the words that your characters speak, and it says, oh, this character will remember your choices. And you have some meaningful choices, but really it kind of presents the illusion of choice. And they're fun. That sort of illusion of choice is fun, regardless. And then you have like small action sequences. Doesn't matter. That's what this feels like in board game form. You're going to be going through these narrative journeys. You're going to be going to different maps and different locations and talking to different people. And there's this huge script. They say they have over 30,000 words. And so you're going to use this app to really find that story. So you're not dealing with flipping through a giant page of narrative book. You're just doing it on the app, and you're choosing the things that you can do, and other things will get locked to you, and you won't discover things about the Dark Quarter. And this is going to follow the same outline as, I feel, a lot of the Chronicles of Crime stuff, or any other app-driven board game, or any other narrative board game. Because in a sense, just because this is driven with an app and they're making it more convenient for the user, doesn't necessarily mean that they should be penalized, I think. But what if cell phones stop existing? I'll never get to play it. That's true. Yeah, if cell phones stop existing, you will never get to play this game. And so I don't mind personally an app-driven game. I don't mind that Lucky Duck tend to go all in on these narrative experiences. I think Chronicles of Crime is a lot of fun. And Telltale games are a lot of fun. I just think that there are cheaper options out there that give you this same sort of experience, like a $20 Telltale video game versus a $100 Lucky Duck board game. And sure, you do have these extra elements to it, but for me, I think the draw to these games is always going to be the story and the exploration and the mystery. And you can capture that without the board game elements. Rolling the dice and checking for skill checks and leveling up your character's stats, I think that's going to be enjoyable. But I think the narrative is going to be the focus here. And I think in a sense that can be said for a lot of narrative games. If the story is good, the story is what matters, and the other sort of moving parts are kind of secondary. So this is €59 for the base game, $80 Canadian, or €94 and $127 Canadian before shipping for the deluxe edition, which really just gives you one extra expansion. Or you can pay €139 or $188 Canadian for the whole shebang with metal coins and metal tokens and minis for characters that you certainly do not need, but the Kickstarter addict in you probably is drooling over. I think these minis will be about as useful as the minis for Tainted Grail were, for example. And those are certainly not useful whatsoever. But that being said, I really do like the designs on these minis. I can understand the draw to them. I just think, remember, they're not going to be that useful. Even if I do wish that, you know, one of the base characters who, well, you'll always get a mini for this one, would stumble across my number and maybe give me a call sometime. And I'm obviously not talking about Julia Paris. I'm talking, of course, about Winter Mullins. Oh, Daddy, drink me up like your secret flask. Julia Paris, seriously, you need to stop calling me. You are more desperate than my ex-friend and now mortal nemesis, Josh. It ain't a cute look. And their shipping is better. There was a mistake. Everyone was like, "Nah, the shipping," and they're like, "Oh yeah, it was just we just wrote it wrong." And so now shipping is kind of average, $17 to the US, $19 to Canada. But then even for that base game, if you're me in Canada, you're looking at like $110 Canadian. And you do get extra value here with the stretch goals. You get a whole box filled with some extra scenarios. And I think as far as stretch goals go, that feels like a decent value pack, what they're currently offering. But at the same time, it's one of those things where you need to be sure that you're going to like the main game and you're going to like it enough that you feel like it was valuable to purchase all of those extra little narrative stuff, and you get a few extra minis at this increased cost. And it's not necessarily increased because Lucky Duck is jacking up the prices, although it's a tiny bit, but it's increased compared to what retail will probably offer. For example, Destinies, which was another narrative-driven game, that was $49 US on their Kickstarter or $60 Canadian, and then you had to add shipping on top of it. And you got an extra set of stretch goals. You got some value out of it. But you could just get the base game for $45 Canadian at retail, or at least I can literally right now. So if you are considering backing the Dark Quarter, I would invite you to consider the amount of shipping versus what Lucky Duck games often cost at retail, because they usually are widely retail available, and if those extra stretch goals are good enough. I mean, that's always the consideration, but it's nice that you have a sort of complete package of stretch goals and you can see if the theme of this game and the story of it really pulls you in and you think you're going to be pulled in a whole ton, then sure, back this one. If not, just wait till retail. If you're on the fence, just wait till retail. I think you'll be okay. Anyway, if you are interested in this one, this finishes May 5th at 11 a.m. Next up, we have the Great Wall Reprint. And they say in their tagline, it's a 1-to-4 innovative worker placement game. You can play solo, co-op, fully competitive. Yeah. But the most important line is, with great reception from reviewers and gamers in 2021, the Great Wall is finally coming back. Well, thank goodness, it's finally coming back. We've been waiting for so long. 2021 was 4 months ago. I've been hanging on the edge of my seat here. And honestly, I'm glad it's finally returning to Kickstarter A Game Found, because those of us in Canada can now get our hands on a copy if you're still waiting for your first copy to be delivered in Canada. Which everyone is. I mean, it's shipping issues, right? Like, what can you do? Shipping issues are always going to happen. I just know this because I get every single Great Wall Kickstarter update because I pledged $1 for the first Kickstarter campaign, and I was really contemplating getting it. I wanted to get the Meeple version. I knew the mini version was too excessive for my blood, but I was thinking that the Meeple version, I could potentially justify the price. And so I wanted to get it, but it was, again, another instance of the shipping cost really outweighing what I felt I would be getting, even at that Meeple version. And they're not even offering the Meeple version anymore, so I'm likely not going to be interested. It's obviously a good game. My favorite part about it, or the things that really drew me in the first time, which made me very interested and almost pulled the trigger on it, were kind of a few. One, the concept of having to defend the wall while doing your own thing inside of it. I like that push and pull of the semi-co-op nature in a worker placement. I think that's a neat mechanic. I like the variability that they have in all of their general cards. I feel like that is going to provide a nice replayability for the game. And most of all, I do like that you have to wait for your workers to activate. I think that is a neat mechanic in terms of how much you stretch yourself thin or who gets to benefit from the place and the push and pull of timing out when you get your workers, that sort of delayed gratification, that was something that really interested me and pulled me in. What I don't love about this campaign is their video, because it tells you absolutely nothing about the game. It just shows you, again, this seems to be a theme. Well, it's not a theme, but a few people are doing it now. It's just reviews, reviews, reviews. Look at all these people who love the game. You don't need to know anything about it, you peasant. You don't get to make up your own decision. Just listen to them and their excitement and just get it. And I'm not trying to knock people's excitement. I legitimately think that this is a really good game, and I'm sure lots of people who get it will enjoy it, but there are also a lot of really good games out there that don't have the production value behind this and give you that same sort of Euro feel, or I imagine they do. But to be fair to Awakened Realms, the markup isn't incredible here. It's a bit, but it's not incredible. It was £90 and it works out to £97 now, which is 116 euros or $156 Canadian. And so it's not an insane markup, but the shipping for this one is still incredibly expensive. This is one of the highest shipping this week. It's 38 euros to ship it to Canada. I guess that's to pay all the port fees that they must be encountering, since everyone in Canada is still waiting for their copy. 22 euro to ship it to anywhere else. So, I mean, it's Awakened Realms. There was once upon a time where I wanted to buy everything Awakened Realms because I really like the stuff that they produce. And then at the same time, the fact that you have to purchase an upgraded rulebook because the first one's just bad, if you were a backer of the first campaign, it feels a bit absurd to me. I mean, it's nice to have the offer. I'm sure some people will appreciate it, but it's not even absurd on like a principle standpoint. I understand that the shipping is likely way too expensive and would cut 1,000,000% all of their margin that they've built up to just ship out these rulebooks to people, even if they sent out a survey and said, hey, do you want this? But more because if you have the game and you've struggled through this rulebook, you're not going to need this new rulebook. Or you can just go online. I think it's good to put it into the new version, obviously. I'm glad they revamped it, and I'm glad that they are offering it for people who want it, but I just think it's silly. That's it. I'm getting a rulebook 2.0 for Etherfields in my Wave 2, and I'm not going to look at it. I just know that I need the internet nearby and to just relax and go and enjoy the ride. Anyway, if you are interested in the Great Wall reprint, check it out. That finishes May 5th at 11 a.m. over on GameFound. I just think that after the shipping is factored in, think about all the other Euros that you're interested in, and if you could buy 3 or 4 of them for what you're spending on this one. And would this one give you all of that enjoyment that those other ones would? Someone asked me to do a 5 reasons for Great Wall, and that's the best reason I could come up with. That Euro games don't need to be so produced, and in fact it might be a little bit overproduced. And hey, like, yeah, it gives it a good table presence, but the overproduction hasn't even gone into the things that matter, like, you know, making a box that fit all the bridges and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, we're moving on to our next game, which is called I See You, which of course I am almost only talking about because of its name. 90% of it was so I could say that this game is called I See You. But in this campaign, another thing I wanted to bring up, you can also get these trap cards.
So it's just like Duel Monsters.
Yeah, I don't have the other clip. You've activated my trap card. You can get these trap cards for the game, which have gameplay implications, but you specifically have to work for them. Normally, these sorts of unlocks are unlocked by social goals, like, oh, subscribe to our YouTube, 50 subscribers, and we unlock this for everybody. That's not how ICU is going to do it. ICU is going to look through their subscriber list and say, you didn't subscribe to us, you do not get this specific trap card, and they're going to take it out of your pledge. And so there are 6 trap cards that you might get into your pledge if you do the work for them. If you share the campaign the way every backer should. And actually, I hear that there's a special 7th card. Yeah, it unlocks when Room and Board gets to 10,000 subscribers. So you better hurry, because if you don't share and make sure everybody makes that happen by the time this campaign is over, double the growth from a year, well then you may not get this super secret trap card, which I hear makes ICU an even better game than Bounce Off. I hope nobody misses out on that one. Hope they unlock that secret goal. Anyway, I haven't talked about the game, and there's not really much to talk about, except that there is a pirate captain who's blindfolded, basically. There's just a tiny little pinprick, and the crew who's trying to trade treasure to each other. And so they have to match cards and get sets of 4, and if they do, they win. And if the captain catches them, the captain gets to shoot them, because as any good captain on any pirate ship would know, they don't like their crew moving a muscle or doing anything at all. They just sit there and look pretty until they board another ship. I mean, this is 19 euros or $26 Canadian, and that's fine until you realize you can play this game with a dollar store sleep mask and a deck of cards. That's really all you need. Dang it! What about that special trap card, you dolt? Anyway, that's it for that one. I just thought it was so absurd that they're saying, you might get 3 cards, you might get 4, depending how hard you work. But if you're interested in that one, check it out. It finishes May 5th at 12 p.m. noon. High noon, when most pirates like to duel. Now next up we have the game Master Dater, and if you couldn't guess from the title, well, I couldn't pass up this opportunity to talk about another funny card game. And this one's even better because it's got funny pictures on it, a funny picture card game. And even better, you get to make up some zany stories. Yeah, in this funny storytelling card game. Oh, what a rush. I missed that air horn. Blowing those horns makes me feel better than any master dating I could possibly imagine. It's a play on words. You get it? Okay. Master Dater. No, when you get it, you're going to really laugh. Master Dater. I can't even. It rhymes with master. I mean, it's as good as any pun I've ever made on this channel. Let's be real. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get focused here. We're wasting too much time. This is the type of game that will be fun. And it will be fun for the first 2 or 3 times you play it, and then you will never play it again. It's the truth. One player is the bachelor, and they have these 3 zany interests that they get to put forward. They say, oh, I love true crime podcasts. This is the example that they give. True crime podcasts, but I also wish I was in a cult, and I am a very bad boy. Those are the 3. And then you'll have a head and a body. You'll have 3 heads and 3 bodies in your hands, and you'll combine them to present to the bachelor their perfect date. And then they get to assign their different traits, the trait cards, the 3 things that they chose, to the bodies and heads that they like the best. And the goal of the game is to get 5 cards, but also 1 of each trait. That's it. So the art on this, I mean, it looks funny. It really does. I think the pairing up will be funny, but again, it's going to be one of those games you play for 2 or 3 times and then you're never going to touch again. The price isn't bad though, $25 US or $32 Canadian, and shipping is great. It's $5 to $10. I mean, it's going to be $10 playing for that. So it's not horrible. And if you get it, hey, I hope you like it. That finishes May 5th at 10 p.m. Next up, we have a game called Castles by the Sea, and I love this concept. I think the theme on this one is so fun. It is a beautiful sand castle building game. And I don't even care that there are many monsters and terrors that can knock over your castles and crumble them into dust, because I just think that's really thematic. There are many monsters and terrors at the beach. Would you please stop kicking sand in my mouth, Jeremy? And when I called his parents over to help me, they just kicked sand into my eyes and ears. Kids can be so cruel. Anyway, on your turn, you're going to get sort of a generic sand block income. It starts with 3 and then you get more as the game progresses, and you're going to put those on the board anywhere you want, but 2 of them have to touch each other. And you'll be setting them out so you can set yourself up to place your own individual structures, because they have very specific requirements on what sort of sand needs to be around them, and you're going to do the same with your little meeples. And basically the game is going to be get all your stuff out on the board as soon as possible, because the sooner it's out there, the more points you're going to get. Most points wins at the end of 6 to 4 rounds. I really like the concept, but my worry is that it's going to feel a little bit predictable in terms of the strategy. There's these little seaweed tokens that are out on the board that give you 2 points, and it's like, well, obviously you'll just put your pieces there first, and then someone else will build from those pieces you just put because you've set them up to build their building, and then someone else will say, okay, I can build mine, or I can get that other seaweed token, and it just feels like it could be a little bit by rote strategy-wise. That's my initial fear, It's also 45 bucks US, $59 Canadian, and then $20 shipping to Canada. 10 to the US, so not as bad there. I just think it's way too much. I think this is the sort of game that I would play and I would get, but I want to pay like 30 bucks for it. So even though the designer is from Nova Scotia, I'll have to take a pass. My parents grew up in the Maritimes, so Nova Scotia, that sort of area is kind of like my second home. But my first home, of course, is here on YouTube with all of you, which according to the terms and conditions that I signed without reading, I am never allowed to leave. So doesn't even matter that it is a second home because the first one is all you need. Anyway, if you are interested in that one, check it out. It looks cute enough, a nice little spatial game. And that finishes May 5th at 11 p.m. Now next up, we have Anastyr. I've been cutting games left, right, and center. Seriously, there were so many and so many bad ones that I sifted through. And you know what? I decided to give Anastyr a chance. This scrappy up-and-coming company, Mythic Games, they need all the help they can get. And if you've heard of this one, you've likely heard, oh, hey, check out the minis. They're magnetic. You can take your mini and you can put it on another mini and it'll stick to it with magnets and it's magic and it's cool. And then you've probably been like, oh, that does sound cool. What's the game like? Doesn't matter. Have you heard of rideable minis? Which coincidentally was never my nickname in high school. Or maybe it was my nickname in high school, because the mini, I'm trying to think of which way is funnier. Anyway, this is another large scenario-based co-op game where you will be going on an adventure and you have to achieve a certain number of quests, and the main quest, if you do, your team wins. If you run out of event cards, you take too long, or two of your heroes die, or too many of your heroes die, you lose. But if you complete the quest, you win. And so at the beginning of your turn, you're going to draw 3 cards, and these will be extra abilities that you can add underneath your dashboard, which you can use to chain for combos, which is actually one of my favorite parts about this game, that you can set yourself up with these tactic cards. But then also later on, as you take more and more wounds, you might have a hand that has wounds in them, and then you'll be less powerful. And this is a mechanic that happens in a lot of sort of card drawing, deck builders, whatever. But I think the most fun mechanic, other than the riding monsters, is using these cards to chain into special abilities and then accruing rage, which you can then expend and do other things. This is going to be another one of those, chuck a bunch of dice at the monsters, see how many you kill, see what you gain, see how you can kill more monsters. That sort of loop repeated over and over that you know from a lot of dungeon crawlers. And just because this one is a side-scrolling dungeon, it's a dungeon crawler that just goes in a straight line versus a dungeon crawler that goes in a straight line and then takes a slight turn to the left. It's gonna feel the same, and it looks fun. It really does look fun, because maybe it's just because I've been having a great time with Massive Darkness 2 and I've been really enjoying that sort of dice chucking, skill checking, whatever. But it looks fun. The minis are absolutely off the charts. My favorite is the troll who's just balancing on his hammer or his club or whatever it is. And I also love that they're highlighting they're using both PVC plastic and ABS plastic. And I really like ABS plastic because when you use it for swords and stuff, they don't bend as much as PVC. And that's awesome that they are melding the two. They're literally using ABS for the pointy things and then PVC for the detail-oriented things. You're paying for this sort of quality mini. It's $130 US, $167 Canadian, $37 US shipping at a minimum. So you're looking at $167 to $172 US, which is like $220 Canadian. It's a bit too much for me, but it does look fun. It does. And I think it is worth checking out if you love those sort of big mini games. So if you are interested, that finishes May 6th, which is Friday at 5 p.m. Now, next, just quickly, we have a game called Iconoclash, and this is just Super Smash Bros., the board game. That's it. And it's a shame I'm not talking about this a lot because there are no shipping estimates. There are 0. They say, we have a Euro warehouse, and we'll try to get you the best shipping we can. Translation, we looked at some shipping estimates. They were too much, so we're not putting them on the campaign page, and we're waiting until you pay us money, and you can't do anything about it. Which is a shame, because it's $20 for a pack of 2 characters, or it's $60 for a pack of 6 characters. You buy the characters individually, you put them on their own sort of unique board, and then you have a brawl where you deal the most damage or eliminate people, depending on whatever mode you want to do. And it's literally Super Smash Bros., the board game. with different characters. But I'm just saying that if you are thinking about this one or you have backed, I consider walking away. No shipping estimate means too much danger in this time, and you might as well just be donating your money because that might happen if the shipping ends up being too much. Anyway, this one finishes at 8 p.m. May 6th. There you go. That's a little bit about Iconoclash, which is too bad because if it had good shipping, the price points are okay, but here we are. Now, next up we have Last Light, which is the infamous 4X game that takes place in under an hour for up to 8 players. Okay, it's actually 2 to 4 players unless you get basically 2 copies of the game. It costs like almost double to get up to 8 players, which, hey, if you're paying for components, I guess that makes sense. And no 2 copies of this game will be identical. That's the pitch in the video. And I just think it's really great to see Grey Fox Games embracing their own sort of quality standards for all to see. See, those imperfections, they're not mistakes. They were to make your game unique. I think Grey Fox Games has been doing this for a very long time, or at least that's what I've heard. Grey Fox Games' track record with Kickstarters and deluxeifications is, well, it's not a good one. Objection. Hearsay. Overruled. The reason I objected is I don't actually have any direct evidence or experience with these quality issues, but I have heard that from a lot of people, and it's just good to know before you jump in if you're really excited about the deluxeifications. Because that's kind of what Kickstarter and Game Founder are all about. It's about getting those deluxeifications that you wouldn't get in retail, or at least that's what it's become. It's no longer about getting a better deal, or very rarely, which is, it makes me want to die inside a bit. But there was a great comment somewhere in the comments on Tom's thoughts about Last Light, which I just think is also such a charming video. And it goes through quite a few of Grey Fox Games' previous attempts where they didn't even quality control before they sent stuff out to backers and people were disappointed. So just really keep that in mind if you are thinking about backing this one. And that might be a reason to wait until retail. But if you do wait until retail, you will miss out on the plastic ships and all the plastic upgrades that for a game like this, which wants to be expansive in that sort of smaller time frame, you may want those deluxeifications. I feel dirty even saying that. I'm a retail boy, but it's true, it's true. I can see wanting the little ship minis on the game or on the game board as it rotates around. So that's really the cost consideration, is think about how much difference that will make, because I don't feel like you should go for the base game. If you are getting it now, you're going to want to get it for those sort of deluxe components. And if that's the case, you're paying $109 US or $140 Canadian plus shipping versus the retail, which is estimated to be like $79 and will probably be less, as a lot of retails are. But we're getting out of order. Let's talk about the game. And there are quite a lot of things that make me excited about it. Like I mentioned, I love that the board will spin and the planets will rotate like you're part of your own little solar system. That just feels so cool. And mechanically, it's nice. It's a nice way to shift up the board and shift up the game. And I love the simultaneous card selection that you play from your hands. And that is integral to it being a quick experience. You're going to play a card and they're all going to resolve at the same time, unless it's combat, in which case you have to resolve them in order. I love the amount of alien races that they're offering. Currently 19 in the Kickstarter. I think by my count, the ones that aren't Grey Fox exclusive, it's 14, so I assume there will be 14 in the base game, which still seems like quite a lot. I just always love oodles and oodles of characters. And I also really like the refresh action. So normally in these sorts of games, you'll play a bunch of cards, and in order to pick your cards back up, you have to play like a collect your cards card. That's what this card is. It's a refresh card. But the round doesn't end until everyone plays their refresh card. So you're going to be operating on these different timelines of how you use your own personal cards, and everybody has the same cards, but people are going to be doing it in a different order. And you're going to want to play your refresh card sooner, because that's what gets you points. That's what gets you towards your goal of 20 points and you win. And so the sooner you play your refresh card, if you've positioned yourself correctly, you can scoop up those points. But the later you delay it, you can kind of control the flow of the game in terms of what people can play and how you can maneuver yourself and to potentially get points. So I think that push and pull feels like it'll be pretty fun just from reading the rulebook, and it's also a pretty solid rulebook too. Really readable rulebook, feels like it would be simple to teach because of that simultaneous action selection. And also, this being by Roy Canada, he works at the Dice Tower. He's been on numerous top 10s or whatever at the Dice Tower, and he always talks about his love for space games. I think that itself lets me have a little bit of more faith in this game, that he is creating a game that he wants to play. So if your tastes align with his, I feel like you will potentially be more interested in this game, or have a sense that you'll probably like it because you like the other stuff that this designer likes. My neighbor is actually pitching a game to people. I've playtested it a bunch of times. I've seen it in a bunch of iterations, and it's really fun, and I feel like publishers will pick it up at some point, and I feel like I will be previewing it on this channel at some point. But he mentioned to me he's done a bunch of other games, smaller games, but he said this is a game that, like, I wanted to make a game that I like to play, and you can kind of feel that in that design, and that is what I'm hoping you also feel from Last Light from Roy. So if you like space games, or if you like 4X games, I think you should check this one out. At least give it a look. That finishes May 6th at 10 p.m. I said I'd speed it up. I certainly have not. But I will speed it up with this one. This one's just quick. We have the Morels 10th Anniversary Edition. And I actually... I can't reach it. I can't reach it. I'm not pulling it out. I'll do it for you. These cards are going all over the place. You know what? I need an elastic to keep these cards together. Nobody's ever gotten mad at me about that. Anyway, I own Morels. My girlfriend picked this up, and we've played it a few times. And it's, well, if you can tell by my pauses, it's okay. It's fine. I think it's a decent game. It's not something that I crave to play over and over again, and honestly, I'd probably get rid of it, but my girlfriend likes it more than I do, so we've kept it, and we haven't played it in literally years. The exciting part about this game, to really whet your whistle, is there's going to be a row of cards, or a circle of cards. Better to play with a circle, it's just easier to less upkeep to manage, and you can pick up one of the two cards that are in front of you in the line, or there's a marker when you do it in the circle. And usually they're mushrooms. You can cook these mushrooms in a pan for points, or you can sell the mushrooms for little twigs, which allow you to reach further ahead in the woods and potentially grab better things as they come up. So it's this push and pull of how long do I wait to get the set of mushrooms that I need, because you only have a hand limit of 8 and you need to cook at least 3 mushrooms at a time. So if you like that push and pull of, I gotta hold on to this really good mushroom that'll score me lots of points, but my hand is so full, maybe I need to sell it to get this other resource to get more cards. That's what this game is. It's fun, it's fine. I'll play it, and I'll say, yeah, we played a game. This certainly doesn't sound like the most enthusiastic review, but it is certainly better than some other games that I've played, and it's fine. I think that tells you all you need to know. $25 US, $32 Canadian. If you saw it secondhand for like 15, yeah, pick it up. But this one is free shipping to the US, so if you're crazy for Morels, or they are having a new expansion out for Morels as well. Not a new expansion, a reprint of the expansion. Check it out, that finishes Friday, May 6th at 11 p.m. Anyway, next up there's a game called My Bloody Valentine, which we're not covering this, so it's just very quick. We have too much to get through, and it looks very bad. It looks straight up bad. I'm at the point in the video where I don't care anymore. Morels was fine. This looks straight up bad. But I also just wanted to talk about it because it really does look like if Devilish Dice was a horror game. That's all. That's all I wanted to say. Devilish Dice! Someone in the 1 year giveaway comments said they didn't have a catchphrase idea, but they did think that Slippery Jim and I should play a game of Devilish Dice and have that as a video. And I somehow think that this game is how that experience would end up. Moving along, onto a game called Holotype. And this might be the surprise of the night. This kind of looks like Dinosaur Wingspan, with some changes and significantly less cards, but you're trying to collect fossils and research, aka blue cubes and white cubes. Publish papers about dinosaurs, aka just spend your blue cubes and white cubes to play a dinosaur. And the dinosaurs will be worth points. That's it. But there are a few kind of exciting things about this game. One is that you have 3 workers. They're all different types, so they all have different bonuses depending on what location you go to. Some are better at rolling for fossils, some are better at researching, whatever. But there is a hierarchy of these workers, and you can bump out other people from a certain space. But the trade-off there is they get that person back for free and can use it somewhere else. And I think the concept of there being this hierarchy of who can push who out of what spaces, and the fact that these spaces are going to be different, and this fact that you then get your person back, that feels like a fun push and pull. Otherwise, you have to take a whole turn to take all your people back instead of placing more out. So I really like that. Another part that I really like is that there's also these global research tasks that you're trying to complete. Basically, it looks like they have to do with little icons on the dinosaurs. And these account for all the dinosaurs that have been played between you and your competitors. And so if you want to complete one of these research objectives, you can spend 5 research cubes, which is a lot in the confines of this game, to claim that. And when you do, you remove a disc from your board, you're going to get those points. Points are good. You want points. But if you have all of the things necessary to complete that global initiative and you don't have to bank on everyone else helping you do it, then you don't have to pay any research cubes because you've already studied those dinosaurs and you know what you're talking about. And I just think that feels like a really cool thing to balance as well. Just an interesting push and pull. Do I spend the research cubes to block you because I know you have it for 0? Is it worth it for me to do that? Do I really try to specialize in these dinosaurs so I can get and race you there? It poses a lot of interesting questions. And then throw in these little milestones that give you special abilities that let you tech up as the game progresses, because every time you play or research a dinosaur, the time track basically moves up 1, and when you get to certain points, everybody gets a milestone, like they've learned more about themselves or their research or whatever, and you get a little bonus ability. All of these excite me. It's $49 US or $63 Canadian. 14 bucks shipping to the US, 21 bucks shipping to Canada. So after conversion, it makes it $102 to get it to me here in Canada. And at that price point, I just can't justify it. If it was 60 bucks, I honestly might pull the trigger on this one. Looks pretty good, worthwhile checking out. That finishes next Sunday at 1 a.m. Now next up, we have Bedeville Carnival. That's over on GameFound, and they're hiding their shipping estimates in the FAQ. Why give people a reason to run away, right? Why be transparent about shipping costs on the campaign page? Just make them scroll through and click back and worry about it later. And I mean, shipping standard, it's not even like crazy. Well, it is crazy. It's 17 euros or $25 Canadian, and you know I certainly wouldn't charge that for a giveaway. I'll charge myself instead. But I'm so frustrated that it's not on the main page. It just feels deliberately dishonest. And I almost closed it, because I'm not going to cover things that don't have shipping anymore. Feels like a waste of time. Or I'll just mention, hey, don't back this. They don't have shipping. If in case you didn't notice. But likely if you're watching this channel, well then you know by now that shipping should be a consideration. And it's a shame because the art here looks really cool and really spooky, even though I could very much live without the Shark Lives Matter promo card. But even the art being as cool as it is, the gameplay also just seems a little too basic for me. You move your person to a spot on the board, either to your left, to your right, or across. You take the resources that are there and you generate noise there. And depending on the noise, Mr. Coral and Fleabag will move towards you. And if they get to you, they kick you out of the amusement park. And then you just come back. There's no real downside. There is a downside. You kind of miss a turn, but it's not like player elimination. But they will throw you out of the park because Coral doesn't like noise. It brings the walkers in. Anyway, this one's €49 or $65 Canadian, so after shipping, it's again that $100 Canadian price point, and this is certainly not worth it. I don't even have to hem and haw about this. So therefore, I'm out, even though it does give me an acrylic Fleabag standee, different Fleabag. But if you're interested in checking that one out, if that brief description tantalized you, as I'm sure it did, that finishes May 8th at 4:30 p.m. That's Sunday. Ready for another tangent? Here we go! Just because. This one is a campaign called D420. Yeah. No, but basically the campaign is like, listen, D4s are stupid and they suck and nobody likes rolling them. So why not just use a D20 instead that only has the numbers 1 to 4 on it? And when you think about it, it's a really good idea. It's a great idea until you realize now they've unlocked this key for you, and you can just, if you roll a 1 to 5, it's a 1, and if you roll a 6 to 10, it's 2, 11 to 15, it's 3, and then 16 to 20, that's 4. You have yourself a D4 20. And you don't have to buy it. But it's a great idea. You just don't have to buy it. But it's a great idea that I figured might as well bring up. Now, moving along, we have a game called Sayu. And this is an abstract game by Kanat. He's the creator of Eero, which I covered in a review last week, if you didn't see it. Woo! Just in time. And this one feels a little bit more confusing off the bat than Eero did. Although Eero did feel a bit confusing with the colors. No, I thought Eero would be overwhelming, not necessarily confusing. This one feels like I will be confused a bit, but I think once you get the hang of it, it won't be so bad. And the key here, if you're watching the video, is to look at the small arrows. That's what matters. And basically, when you place a tile, if a small arrow is pointed at a color that's not yours, you get to flip that over. And when you flip it over, you then put it in the orientation of the large arrow that you just put down. And then if that tile that you just flipped over, the small arrows are pointed at any other color that's not yours, you get to flip one of those over and repeat the process over and over and over. If you get the combos right. If you don't, you just flip it over and you forgot, or you didn't visualize how it would flip over, then you don't get anything. Well, you get that one tile, but that's it. And this whole game is going to be about building combos. And this is a game that I know for a fact that my girlfriend would hate probably more than anything she's ever played, because she hates games where you have to heavily visualize. If we're playing a game with polyominoes or pieces that you add to your map, she'll take them and she'll see how it fits and she'll put it back. She just doesn't enjoy that spatial aspect, where that's something that I do enjoy, visualizing and having to rotate something in my head and then put it onto my board and play it like that. So if you're like her, well, you already know you don't like this one. And I really think that should be the determining factor of if you should look into this or not, aside from, of course, the always determining factor of price and shipping ratio to the amount of times that you'll play it, which in my case is probably never, because she will never play it with me. Anyway, if Eero was checkers on acid, Sayu is Go on shrooms. A little bit more grounded, a little less trippy, equally mind-bending. I don't do drugs. Anyway, it's $25 US or $32 Canadian, and it's around the same price that Eero was, and I thought Eero was a bit expensive. I wanted it slightly cheaper. I want everything slightly cheaper, right? Like $5 US cheaper. But I imagine, because the pieces were so quality in Eero, I imagine the quality here will hopefully make up for that difference. Now, shipping is estimated to be quite accurately $10 to $14 US. It'll be shown in Australian dollars, so just make sure you look up a conversion to make sure you know exactly what you are paying, and if you feel like that cost evaluation is good for you. It's $14 US for me, so my total bill to get Sayu would be about $50, and that's like $1 per wooden piece, basically. I just know I probably wouldn't play it that much, so it's probably a pass for me. But if you like Go and you wanted something, again, kind of elevated, check that out. That finishes Monday, May 9th at 2 a.m. Eastern, so Sunday night. Okay, 3 more. Enough with Sayu, we have Phraya. Yeah, it's pretty late. Anyway, Phraya is a worker movement game with commodity speculation and pick up and deliver. So basically, you're trying to get the best prices on goods, deliver them to other places in the canals, and as they say in the video, many more actions to relive the feeling of being an ancient merchant, because that's what we want in all of our games. It's my favorite line of the video. But my favorite mechanic in this game is that when you move your boat, you get to activate both sides of the stall, which means you get double the stuff, and who doesn't love getting stuff? But I'm sure for all you Kickstarter addicts out there, your favorite mechanic would be the board game speculation. Sorry, the commodity speculation. That's what'll get your heart a-thumping and get you that $20 return 2 years later. Maybe. Anyway, I was quite impressed with this campaign. It's a really easy rulebook to understand. You're going to have 5 cards in your hand. You're going to play one of them and do that action, and then move your boat the number of spaces according to the number of rowers you have in your boat. Obviously, the more rowers you have, the faster you'll go, like a Jamaican bobsled team. And then when you park yourself in between 2 stalls, you'll take the action on both of those stalls. And there you go, that's your turn. What's neat about this is you could presumably just like circle the same stall over and over until Gary sends you to another place. Or Sekia, you're driving away all the customers. But I think that movement aspect of it will be fairly important because it's a 4x4 grid. And this one actually looks pretty fun. It just looks like a solid, lighter Euro game. I say lighter, but all the different iconography will take some getting used to. And this is 42 euros or $56 Canadian, with the shipping to the US being in that 18 to 20 euro range. And so that puts this for me around $86 Canadian, which is, hey, we're getting better. It's not 100. It's still likely a little bit too high for me. But honestly, this one looks like a solid pick if you really like Euro games. You could check this one out. It kind of reminds me of Karigari Taj, which ended up being a pick of the week once upon a time ago. But if you are interested in that one, that finishes at Monday at 5 a.m. Next up, we have Assault on Doomrock. And listen, any game that lets me be an oily mage, well, this is one Slippery Jim is going to want to check out. I mean, good thing I'm not him, and our bodies were definitely switched back. And this game, it kind of feels a bit like a Too Many Bones wannabe, right down to their poker chip upgrade. But this one has a gridless combat system instead of a combat on a grid. And there's a little bit more focus on the outside parts where you would go and adventure to a town and tech up and get different items. You'll loot, you'll shop, you'll camp. You'll have a certain amount of time to do this, like a time tracker. It's a resource you'll spend as a team. And you'll do all that sort of stuff, and then a battle will occur, and you'll have to go into this gridless battle system. And this battle, I feel, is the highlight. Starts on page 24 of this rulebook if you wanted to just jump right there. But I also think it's the thing that you'll want to check out to make sure you will enjoy, because it'll be kind of the highlight as well. You're going to set up your gear, and then you're going to roll dice, and you need to have specific numbers rolled and put them on your item cards, because the item cards will show, I need a 5 and a 6 in order to activate this item. And then when it has those dice on there, you can then activate the dice. But the gridless combat system, I think, is actually pretty slick. Basically, the combat will take place, there will be groups. So any group, if you're touching that group, you're considered adjacent to any enemy in that group. And if you're not touching that group, then you're considered away from that group. And so that's your movement. You're going to either move into a group or move away from a group or move out of a group or move into something else. And that feels like it'll flow really nicely. It makes a lot of sense. It's easy to pick up. And yet I think there will be some dynamics of, okay, who needs to be adjacent here? Uh-oh, these monsters can attack us if we're not adjacent, etc. Like those will be the little things that you'll have to consider. The flavor on the cards feels funny and fresh, and I should know I am the official king of comedy. And I also really like the amount of heroes that they provide you with. They frame this as a rogue-like experience that you're going to constantly be going through, Slay the Spire style. And I think that's right. You're not getting this for the campaign, which is just a 3 battle. It's as much of a campaign as Too Many Bones has a campaign. You're going through runs and you're facing different monsters and you're getting different loot and exploring different side quests or whatever. Now the base pledge is €77 or $104 Canadian, but what is incredibly frustrating to me is that they have these custom dice that mitigate randomness. Basically, the red dice you roll lower, the black dice you roll higher, or whatever it is. And these feel like a staple to most games in this genre. I'm just speaking from my Massive Darkness right now. But when you have a thing that is like a gameplay mechanic, either it's a gameplay mechanic that you need and it should be included in every pledge, or people are now paying to make it an easier game, then is it just the board game version of pay to win? It's gotta be the dumbest decision I've ever heard. There's some things you can skimp on, but like leaving out gameplay dice rolling, which is the core of your battle, like item activation, it's just absurd. It's also absurd they don't even have prices in their add-on section on the campaign because they're just focused on pushing you towards that all-in and not letting you do the math for yourself and see that, oh yeah, I could just get the custom dice for $2 or whatever. It's not $2. likely. But I couldn't tell you what it is because they don't tell you on the campaign page. So just these two things, I mean, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth in a game that I feel was funny and I like the combat and I think it's doing some neat things. But I don't know if it's doing $135 Canadian worth of neat things. I don't know, you do get a lot of cards. The shipping is expensive, it's like 20 to 24 euros. That's how I got to 135 Canadian. But when you compare it to the second edition, which was in stores for $65 Canadian at retail, it feels like a potential wait for retail because I don't know if the Kickstarter is giving you too much additional. I know they say they've melded expansions together in this Kickstarter Ultimate Edition, and maybe this Ultimate Edition will be more expensive at retail, and so the prices are possibly not comparable. I haven't really looked in too deep to all those sorts of ins and outs because I've been a little busy. But my initial gut says maybe the retail will be a better deal. But you don't have to worry about that. You have a whole week to decide. That's next Monday at 4:30 p.m. And finally, you can see the relief. We have made it to the last game of the week, and that is Explorers of the Woodlands. I looked at it, I looked back at you, I forgot it, and then I looked at it again. But yeah, Explorers of the Woodlands. And this reminds me a lot of Tiny Epic Dungeons, if you are familiar. You're going to be exploring a woodland tile by tile until you finally reveal the boss tile, and then you have to kill the boss dead, and that's how you win. The boss tile will always be in one of the 3 bottom tiles that happens in the setup. So you're going to go through basically the whole woodland and have to fend off a bunch of monsters before you can take down the big bad boss. And the basic structure is you're going to roll dice and you're going to assign them to your board. And very similar to the items in Assault on Doomrock, your board has specific spots. The 1s and the 3s go here, the 5s go here. And generally, the higher you roll, the better things you can do. And there are some wild spots as well. And you're also then going to be collecting orbs. And these orbs will let you do 2 things. 1, activate your special power, which in my uncle's case is peeing in movie theaters. And 2, re-rolling your dice, which I think is incredibly important. Almost as important as never seeing the 3 p.m. showtime of Singing in the Rain at the Yonge and Dundas Theatre in Toronto. Just trust me. Anyway, battle's pretty simple, very simple. You're going to roll dice. You're going to try to hit a number of the monster's defense. The number of dice you get to roll is dependent upon how many dice you've already used that turn. And then the monster has a number of hit points, so you have to roll its defense that many times. Not the most inspired combat. Makes me a little bit less enthusiastic for the game, personally. But if you're like, that's my favorite combat mechanic, well, look at you go. You can go get this game. It's 29 euros, or 40 bucks Canadian, which feels good. And then there's 14 euro shipping to the US, 17 euro shipping to Canada. So it would be $62 Canadian total to get it to me. And this is one of those games where it's like, yeah, 30 bucks, I'd pick it up. I'd take a shot on it. 40 bucks is where I expect it to end up. Shipping at 62 bucks, it's just too high. Even with the cute little meeples, it's just too high. But if you're interested, hey, check it out. That finishes Tuesday at 11 a.m. And that's it. We are done for the week. Probably, I have to assume this is our longest week yet, although we have had a couple long weeks in the past. This is definitely the most campaigns that I've looked at personally in a week, and I did also cut quite a few. But just a quick note on that, I didn't talk about Uprising because it is such a long week. So I'm saving that for next week, but I usually try to cover things that are on the Tuesday. Uprising does finish next Tuesday. So if you are interested in that and you want to hear my take on it, make sure to watch next Monday's video on Monday and don't save it till later in the week because I wouldn't want you to miss out if it's good. Maybe it is. I've heard people are raving about it, and it's not going to retail, and that's probably why people are raving about it. Anyway, I could have done a whole segment on Uprising right now, but I haven't yet read that rulebook, so I don't want to just say nonsense to you. I want to at least be coming from a position of knowledge and then say nonsense to you. But anyway, every week we have a pick for me and a pick for you. The pick for me is the one that I'm the most interested in, likely mechanically, and then the pick for you is the one I think that will have the most broad appeal. And so the pick for me, maybe you can guess from my excitement when we covered it, it's going to be Holotype. I'm not getting it. It's way too expensive for it to get to my door. But I do want to just shout it out as a game that I feel is going to really click mechanically. just reading through the rule book, all of the actions, I could envision taking them, and I could envision enjoying the strategic decision of doing them and when to do them, and I think it would play fairly quickly. Yeah, Holotype feels like a fun game. I wish them all the best in their campaign, and I hope it does really well, and I would love to see that be widely available at retail, because I think it would be fun. I think it would be fun to play. But I like those sort of like just get cubes, spend the cube sort of games. Just seems light, easy to table, easy to play quickly, but with that fun few elements to it. It's all the different elements that I like that are slight twists on things that already exist. Or not really slight twists, but I'm sure they've existed in other places before, but it just feels like slightly off from the norm, and, well, I'm also that. So yeah, Holotype, Mesozoic of the North America, or whatever it is. There's a colon. I think they probably have more games in them, or more ideas, or just want to just do more dinosaurs, really, a la Wingspan. So that's why they've like specified it being the Mesozoic era. I just think that one looks really cool. So that's my pick for me. And then my pick for you, it's hard. I'm a sucker for hearsay. I really am. But I think just on mechanics and what I think would have that sort of wide appeal, it's a close tie. It's between Anastyr and Last Light. And I'm going to give it to Last Light, the pick for you, just over Anastyr, because the price is still cheaper. Anastyr is so expensive for what you get. And I think if you're a mini painter and you want those minis, sure, and you'd get like a huge enjoyment from all the detail in them, yeah, that would probably be the way to go, would be Anastyr. But I think for an ease of play and doing something fun in a large genre, I think Last Light does look really good. Mechanically, it seems fun. I like how the parts work together. I like the variation that's kind of baked in there. And it feels like it would be really easy to pick up and therefore get to your table more often as well, which is a very significant bar and significant goal. And the planets do look cool. I do like that the planets, they are going to be all unique because they're going to all be swirly and they're just marbles on sticks, really, right? Most marbles are unique. If you get the swirly ones, I assume. I'll have to call my marble expert to double check for everyone. But yeah, Last Light, it looks really solid. It really does. My hesitancy is with Grey Fox Games, honestly, because I know people were very dissatisfied and have been very dissatisfied with them in the past. Honestly, for me, like the issues that came out were that, no, if you're paying for deluxe quality, I mean, the company should do a bare minimum of getting a production copy sent to them and looking it over. Like, you should do that. You probably should do that and not just trust that the person at the company manufacturing it knows how your board game is played and what you need in it to make it a good experience. Even with that, though, it's a tough caveat. Even just saying that sort of stuff out loud, I go like, yeah, should you back it? I don't know. But I think just mechanically, that's the one that I like. So that's why that's my pick for you, Last Light. I don't know, though. Maybe it's a no pick for you week. Anastyr too expensive. Last Light too risky. No pick for you. Go see Everything Everywhere All at Once. I saw that last week. It was a really good movie. Quite enjoyed it. So dumb in so many places. So many moments where I'm like, I cannot believe this actually made it into a film. But then this is by the same people who did Swiss Army Man, which Daniel Radcliffe played a flatulent corpse. So what do you expect? But yeah, it was a really good movie. So don't buy a game. Go see that movie or see the Nicolas Cage one and let me know how it is. That's it for the week. I'm done talking. Thank you so much for being here. I almost divided this one up into 2 videos because I didn't know if I would get done in time. I'm going home for the weekend to visit my parents for their 40th wedding anniversary. So I'm recording this in advance and then I will edit feverishly at night while I'm there and then when I get back. But yeah, I almost contemplated putting this out in 2 parts because it is potentially so long. So let me know if you prefer this in one video that you can return to and YouTube will hold your spot, or if you would have preferred it in like Monday video and then Tuesday you put out the second half, and then I could have covered Uprising because I could have potentially looked at that on the Monday or whatever, and then gotten it out for the next day. Or just because it is easier to consume rather than something that's over an hour, which feels potentially daunting. But you made it here, so probably it's okay being in one video. Anyway, let me know what you're excited about this week. Just this week. There are so many things this week that are worth, I think, getting excited about. I know a lot of people are juggling 4 or 5 of these campaigns for sure. Which one are you the most excited for? Ask that to you and tell me as well. And I'm interested to hear. I'm interested to hear which one pops up and what's upcoming as well. I always like to hear that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, as always. My name is Chris George, and I don't have a catchphrase. Maybe I'll have one soon. Thanks for being here. See you in the next one.